Okay, my name is H. Shankar, lecturer in Zoology, Government Degree College for Women, Karimnagar. Rearing methods of mulberry silkworm. Mulberry silkworm. Okay. So rearing methods of silkworm. First three instars are called chowky worms. 4, 5 instars are called late age worms. So here generally the rearing method starting from whenever the egg lays by these adult moths, and these eggs are um, released on the surface of the leaf. So from that so that is natural. In that in natural that process occurred, but in rearing condition, so we had to collect the eggs from brooding centers. So there are the rearing methods of mulberry silkworm are two types. They are chowky rearing methods and rearing methods of late age worms. Two types of rearing methods are there. First one is chowky rearing method, and second one is rearing method of late age worms. So first chowky rearing methods. First one is chowky rearing methods. Rearing of first three instars larvae are called chowky rearing. Rearing of first three instars are called chowky rearing. In chowky rearing, the emphasis is on maintenance of high temperature and humidity within the bed, and supply of tender leaves rich in moisture, sugar, salt and protein, and with less fiber content. So in chowky rearing, the emphasis on the maintenance of high temperature. So you have to maintain the proper temperature and humidity within the bed, and supply of tender leaves rich in moisture, sugar, salt and protein, and with less fiber content. There are three methods in chowky rearing. There are three methods in chowky rearing. First one is a paraffin paper rearing. Second one is a box rearing. Third one is a cooperative rearing. Cooperative rearing. Here this is about the chowky methods, and so in early stage the silkworm looks like in black color. Those are called black ants, and after 2 to 3 weeks and a large wheat color worms are present. So these are the methods when we are observing these chowky method. So these are the photographs of this chowky rearing method. Okay, here, and first one is paraffin paper method. Paraffin paper method. The worms are reared in ordinary circular or rectangular rearing trays. The worms are reared in ordinary circular or rectangular rearing trays. In order to maintain the succulency of leaves, which are cut into small bits. Generally, these leaves are cut into small bits. The leaves are cut into small bits, as well as to maintain high temperature. The bottom and top of the rearing beds are covered with paraffin paper, with the paraffin facing the bed. Okay, actually the bottom and top the paraffin papers are covered. The paraffin papers are covered in this rearing method. Strips of wet foam, rubber pads, strips of newspaper are kept on all sides of the bed. So generally the foam, rubber pads and newspapers are kept all side of the bed. So that is the reason to maintain the proper temperature. So feeding is given 4 times. Feeding is given 4 times a day. So that is 6 a.m., 11 a.m., 4 p.m., 10 p.m. 6 a.m., 11 a.m., 4 p.m., 10 p.m. So these are the feeding times for these choking rearing method. So bed cleaning is given once for the first instar before enter into the molds. So whenever it is entering to the mold, first cleaning is takes place, and twice for second instar. So whenever the second instar larva is present, so the twice bed cleaning. First after the mold and second before the next mold. So one more cleaning is there. So first after the mold and before the next mold. So the one more third bed cleaning is going on, and thrice the third instar before mold, and thrice for the third instar before mold. Okay. The paraffin paper covers on the tops is removed 30 minutes prior to each feeding for ventilation and also during molting. Okay, so here The paraffin paper is a cover. The paraffin paper cover on the top is removed 30 minutes prior to each feeding for ventilation and during molting. A thin layer lime powder is sprinkled over the bed, which helps to keep the bed dry. A thin layer of lime powder is sprinkled over the bed, which helps to keep the bed dry. This is also prevents muscardine. Hey, light eye, muscardine. So this is about a paraffin paper rearing method. These are the two paraffin papers are arranged in this rows. So generally on the rows and top region and lower region covered with paraffin paper and sorry, and the walls also covering with rubber papers. Okay, so this is about paraffin paper method. So paraffin paper is costly and often unavailable at the required time. So paraffin paper is sometimes it is costly, sometimes it is unavailable and it is costly. So farmers have evolved cheap alternative method, namely using banana leaf and bark instead of paraffin paper. Okay, instead of paraffin paper, they are using these banana leaves and banana bark. So second one is box rearing. In this method, specially made boxes are used for rearing. Boxes are made up of wood, plastic, or galvanized iron. At least 10 to 15 centimeter depth are used for this method of rearing. The boxes may be with white, may be with or without lids. The boxes may be with lids or without lids. Okay. Now the preparation of this rearing bed is similar to paraffin paper rearing method. The preparation of a rearing bed is similar to paraffin paper rearing method. In box rearing without lids, the boxes are closed with lids after placing. So the box rearing without lids or the box are closed with lids after placing a paraffin paper on top, and boxes are arranged on the rearing shelf itself. So although in box rearing the paraffin paper also used, paraffin paper on the top and the boxes are arranged rearing the shelf itself. The in box rearing without lids, the boxes are not covered with lids but placed one above the other. In box rearing without lids, the boxes are not covered with lids but placed one above the another. Feeding method. So the feeding method, bed cleaning and anti-muscardine measures are done as in the. So this is about box rearing method here. So the loose box and so between the paraffin papers are there. So in that the eggs and larvae is there and covered with this is about paraffin paper. And next one is a cooperative method. Cooperative method. Okay. Cooperative method. So rearing of silkworm required technical skills. These skills are lacking most of the rural farmers. The skills are not the skills. So, if the silkworms are not reared properly in this young stage, they are more disease later in star, resulting the crop failure. Besides, these rearers are not able to afford the necessary equipment for the silkworm rearing under the ideal condition. In order to overcome these all problems, cooperative rearing have been organized to provide technical assistance, ideal conditions, etc. The rearing conducted up to 2 to 3 second or third molt. These are also called chowky rearing centers. These centers are provided with ideal rearing house with all necessary equipment. So, in this cooperative rearing method, the necessary requirements are needed and the skill is most important. These are also called chowky rearing centers. These centers are provided with ideal rearing house with all necessary equipment. The total rearing are supervised by technical experts. Mulberry leaf rearing is provided from a single garden with ensure uniform quality of leaf. So, here we have to take into account the quality of leaf is most important for these worms, and generally cooperative rearing centers have capacity to rear 200 to 500 boxes. Each box contain 2000 to 5000 eggs up to third molt. So, this is about cooperative rearing method. And in popular in Japan, 90% rearing up to third molt is carried cooperative centers after worms are distributed individual rearing farmers. In India, cooperative rearing were not very popular, but they are adapted increasingly. Adapted increasingly. In India, cooperative rearing were not very popular, but they are adapted increasingly. So, advantage, it saves labor and times for other work. So, it saves labor and leaves time for other work. It ensures stable rearing conditions and high cocoon quality. It ensures stable rearing conditions and high cocoon quality. It reduces the expenditure and low cost of production. It reduces expenditure and low cost of production. Disease control can be carried out more effectively. More effectively. Disadvantage, the only one that is if for some unforeseen reason cooperative rearing fails in one season, the entire crop of the area will be lost. So, this is only that some unforeseen reason cooperative rearing fails in one season, the entire crop of the area will be lost. These are the okay. Rearing methods of late age worms. Rearing methods of late age worms. So, rearing methods of late age worms. So, rearing of fourth and fifth instar worms called late age rearing. These worms require less humidity and low temperature than compared to easily early stages. The stage is real feeding stage. So, here the late age worm, actually then only they can produce the cocoon. As this final stage of rearing, worms are fed popularly with quality leaves to get good crops. There are three methods in rearing late age worms. They are shelf rearing, floor rearing, shoot rearing. Okay. So, here first one is the shelf rearing. Okay, this is the most popular method in India. The worms are reared in circular bamboo tray, which are placed one above the other. The shelves arranged parallel to the well. Shelf rearing method. The worms are reared in circular bamboo trays, which are placed one above another, tiers in shelves arranged parallel to each other. So, bottom of the rock should be 20 centimeters above the ground, there should be a gap. The actual arrangements of shells with within room shooted to dimension, so that they are sufficient room for keeping trace, and removed from the shelves for feeding or bed cleaning purpose. So as feeding is given, so in trace the entire leaves are chopped. As feeding given in trace, the entire leaves or chopped leaves or shootless are given 4 times per day. So as feeding given in trace, the entire leaves or chopped leaves or shootless are given 4 times per day. Bed is cleaned with nets daily in the morning. Bed is cleaned with nets daily in the morning. Spacing is combined with bed cleaning. Spacing is combined with bed cleaning. Advantage: more worms can be reared in limited areas. All over view, all the trays are possible. Required air and light is available. Disadvantages: more labor required, cost of production is more. More labor required, cost of production is more. And floor rearing method. Okay, so this is similar to the shelf rearing, except that instead of tray, fixed rearing seats are used to accommodate the worms. Here the fixed rearing seats are accommodated for worms. The rearing seats are made up of wood or bamboo strips and are about 1 to 1.5 meter in width, as long as the room can accommodate. The seats are arranged in 2 or 3 tiers at a distance of 0.6 to 0.8 meters in between. The rearing seats are arranged in the center, and the space around is used. Okay, the rearing seats are arranged in the center. So here the according to space they have to use, and used carrying out the rearing operations. So in between these the some space is there for carrying the rearing operations. Feeding is given 3 or 4 times per day. So in earlier we have to give 4 times per day. So feeding is given 3 to 4 times a day with entire leaves or cut twigs. Bed cleaning is done with nets. The bed cleaning is done with nets. So advantages: saving on labor expenses, thus reduce the cost of production. So here that is the most important, and more number of worms can be reared. More number of worms can be reared. So next, saves time feeding, saves time in feeding and cleaning and spacing. Saves times in feeding, cleaning and spacing. Silkworm growth and disease incidents can be observed easily. Silkworm growth and disease incidents can be observed easily. Okay, for floor method. Next, shoot rearing. Shoot rearing. So shoot rearing is very similar to floor rearing. Silkworms are reared on big branches in 1 or 2 tiers. Shoot rearing is very similar to floor rearing. Silkworms are reared on big branches in 1 or 2 tiers. The big shoots are harvested from the fields or fed straight away to the worms. So the big shoots are harvested from the field and fed away fed away to the worms. Directly here we are feeding large branches. The rearing seeds are usually 1 meter wide and of any length long. So here the rearing seeds are usually 1 meter wide of any length long. The rearing seeds are arranged 20 centimeters above the ground. The rearing seeds are arranged 20 centimeters above the ground. This method of rearing can be carried outdoor. So the shoot rearing method carried outdoor if the environmental conditions are favorable and especially temperature. If the proper temperature is there in the environment, so we have to follow the shoot rearing method. The worms are supplied with big shoots. The worms are supplied with big shoots. In every fed, the larvae keep moving upward to consume the mulberry leaves. So the larvae can move across these large branch. It requires only one cleaning each in the fourth and fifth instar. So it requires only one cleaning each in fourth and fifth instar. Ropes of convenient length are sewed parallel to each other lengthwise on the bed after 2-3 feet when the worms are called on to new branches. So here the ropes of convenient, the length is arranged to parallel, and the beds held ropes are rolled into loose of bundles cutting ropes for every 2 meters after cleaning the rolled bundle as per as or spread on the rearing beds. Here this is about shooting method. It is takes place in the on the ground. So according to that they have to follow some ropes. So here the floor method, this is saved times and cleaning spacing, silkworm growth and disease instantly can be observed easily. And advantages, labor requirement reduces 60%, the fourth instar and 50% in fifth instar, and uh, leave saving about 25% in fourth instar and 10% in fifth instar. The better aeration and rearing time is minimized. The rearing activities are made easy. The rearing activities are made easy. Okay, next is spinning. Spinning. Okay. Here the condition, when the ripworms are mounted on the mountage, they pass out last excreta in semi-solid. So whenever the molds are ready to give their spinning, the condition when the ripworms are mounted on the mountage, they pass out last excreta on semi-solid. When the humidity is high, excess body moisture is also eliminated as urine. When the humidity is high in the room, the excess body moisture is also eliminated as urine. After diffusion, the ripworm start spinning. Spinning means the silk glands are producing the silk from the glands. So they can arrange in a particular manner. They can make a cocoon. It make a cocoon. So that is called spinning. Now the cocoons, by selecting a suitable place in the mountage, each silkworm develops a pair of silk glands. Each silkworm develops a pair of silk glands which synthesize silk by utilizing the amino acids coming from mulberry leaf. So generally, whenever the larva is voracious feeding is takes place, the more amount of amino acids stored in its body. So those amino acids are used for the spinning. The silkworm first lays the foundation for the cocoon by weaving a primary web. So first of all, for preparation of cocoon, so they can make a primary web. This web becomes as a foothold for the larvae um, to sow in the compact shell. Okay, so this is about spinning. So here the silkworm first lays the foundation for the cocoon by weaving a primary web. This web becomes its foothold for the larvae to sow in the compact shell. Okay, this is about for spinning. In the silkworm, larvae moves its head in the shape 8 number 8 shape to spin the cocoon. The silkworm larvae moves its head in the shape of 8 to spin the cocoon. The the farmer's the farmer shape is found in the outer layer of cocoon. The shells white the shells the shells while the latter type it is used middle and inner layer. In this way the larvae forms layers of silk filament around itself and finally wrapped a compact shell. So first of all, whenever the larvae can shows these cocoon, horizontal layers are formed from that. So the zigzag layer threads are formed, then only so the cocoon will be produced. So the first formed filament, that is primary web, constitute the floss of the cocoons and it is not reliable. So first filament may not reliable. The floss is uni and bivolatile races is about 2% of the weight of cocoon, and while the multivolate more than 10% of loss is seen. So first of all, in univolatile 2% of loss is there, and multivolatile 10% loss of the silk fiber is there. The process of spinning, spinning continue about 1 to 2 days in multivolatiles uh, and 2 to 3 days in uni and bivolatiles. So bivolatile means they can make different arrangements, univolatile and bivolatile. So this process of spinning continue about 1 to 2 days in multivolatile, 2 to 3 days in uni bivolatile. And after the compact shell of the cocoons is formed by the shrinking larva wraps itself in palade and grassomer layer. After the compact shell of cocoon is formed, the shrinking larva wraps itself in a palade or a gossamer layer. Finally, the larva detaches itself from the cocoon's shell to transform into pupa or chrysalis. Finally, after formation of cocoon, the larva convert into pupa or chrysalis. This layer, grassomer and palade, does not form a part of main shell. So it is not a part of main shell. So here we are observing here the diagrams of spinning, how the spinning is going on, and finally the cocoon is formed. So this is about spinning of cocoons. Next, harvesting of mulberry silk cocoons. Harvesting of mulberry silk cocoons. The silkworm larva metamorphoses in pupa after spinning the cocoons for about 48 hours from the time they are mounted. The silkworm larva metamorphoses in pupa after spinning the cocoons for about 48 hours from the time they are mounted. Generally, pupation takes place on the 4th day of spinning. The pupation takes place on the 4th day of spinning. Thus, the worms inside the cocoons will be still in the form of prepupa, which has a delicate cuticular skin. So which adequate cuticular skin. Okay. So generally the pupation takes place on the 4th day of spinning. Thus the worms inside the cocoon will be still in the form of prepupa, which has the adequate cuticle skin. That is a more amount of skin. Thus if the cocoons are handled before this stage, the skin may rupture and the body fluid will ooze and stain in cocoons, making it unsuitable for reeling. Thus, early harvesting of cocoons should be strictly avoided. Thus, if the cocoon are handled before this stage, the skin may rupture. Okay, so if we are handling before this stage, the skin may rupture and the body fluid will come out and stain the cocoons which were healthy cocoons, making it unsuitable for reeling. Thus, early harvesting of cocoons should be strictly avoided. Okay, that is most important. We have to keep it in mind. In course of time, the pupal skin hardens and turns to dark brown. In course of time, the pupal skin hardens and turns to dark brown. The cocoons are harvested on the 5th day in summer and 6th day in cooler season, especially winter season. In case of seed cocoons, they may be harvested on the 6th day. In case of seed cocoons, they may be harvested on the 6th day. The harvesting must be delayed beyond the above said period because it affects the reeling activity. So, in case of seed cocoons, they may be harvested on the 6th day. Harvesting must be delayed beyond the above said period because it affects the reeling activity. So, this is the harvesting of silk cocoons. And before harvesting, the cocoons and the mountage held in a slanting position with the cocoon side and downwards, given a gentle shaking to dislodge the fecal material. Before the harvesting the cocoons, the mountage are held in a slanting position with the cocoon side downwards and given a gentle shaking to dislodge the fecal material. The flimsy cocoons are taken out with forceps or chopsticks. The care must be taken not rupture the cocoons as their body fluid or dead silkworms may stain good cocoons. Care must be taken not rupture the cocoons as their body fluid or dead silkworm may be stained with good cocoons. So, we have to take the proper protection and care. The cocoons harvested are kept in thin layer in a tray or an mat. The cocoons harvested are kept in a thin layer or tray or on a mat. After harvesting, the cocoons are first cleaned to remove pellets or debris sticking to the cocoons. Then they are sorted to separate bad cocoons. Okay, so this is about and next storage of cocoons. Here we have to remember one more thing. Here the storage of cocoons. Okay. The seasoned or conditioned cocoons can be reeled immediately, but generally they are required to be stored for varying periods in reeling units. So, according to time and moisture, so we have to take into account. Cocoons can be stored for 1 month steam stifled and for 4 to 6 months when hot air dried. Here the two methods are we have to follow. Cocoons can be stored for 1 month steam stifled and 4 to 6 months when hot air dried these cocoons. During the storage they may be damaged by either the beetle dermatitis lordarius or by fungal growth. During storage, they may be damaged by either the beetle dermatitis lordarius or by fungal growth. The larva and adult beetles are attracted by the smell of stifled cocoons and they eat the pupa after cutting the cocoons. So, it is a great damage to the sericulture. The fungal growth occurs if the cocoons are not dried properly. If the cocoons are not dried properly, the fungal growth will take place. If the store rooms are wet or humid, and one more condition, when the store rooms are wet and humid condition also, that leads to production of fungus on or growth on cocoons. The cocoons are subject at attack by rats and ants and other insects. The cocoons are subjected subjects attacked by rats and ants and other insects. The following precautions are to be taken against these pests. The following precautions are to be taken against these pests. Okay. So, steam stifled and hot air stifled cocoons should be stored separately. So, for 1 month cocoons and 4 to 6 months cocoon we have to stored separately. The cocoons must be dried completely. So, the cocoons are must dried completely. They must be stored in rooms with good ventilation so that the humidity inside the maintained below the 70%. The ventilation is also removing traces and fumigants. The ventilation also remove the fumigants, and the cocoons must be inspected and turned over frequently so that they have good aeration. They must be spread in thin layer if steam stifled. The cocoons must be inspected and turned over frequently. So, we must and should turn it over frequently, and rearrangement of these cocoons in the storage. So, that they have to good aeration, they must be spread in thin layer if the steam stifled. Any stain or mold attacked cocoon must be carefully removed. Any stain or mold attacked cocoons, especially some fungi, so carefully removed. Cocoon wastage and reeling wastage must not be stored in the same room. Cocoon waste and reeling waste must not the stored in the same room or even the same neighborhood. So, we have to cast away, remove away. Hot air at 60 to 70 degrees temperature should be passed onto the storage room to kill insects. So, 60 to 70 degrees temperature hot air moves passed on to the storage room. The storage room should be protected from direct sunlight, but there should have sufficient aeration. So, the storage room should have protecting direct sunlight, but the sufficient aeration is most important. Sufficient aeration is most important. So, this is about rearing methods of silkworms. Rearing methods of silkworm. Thank you. And we have to go to conclude these sericulture rearing methods. So, nearly different types of sericulture methods are there. So, for that first one is here the rearing methods and chowky methods. First 2-3 instar larvae we have to follow the chowky methods, and here the in chowky methods, chowky rearing methods, nearly 3 methods are there. So, first one is a box method and cooperative method. This is paraffin paper method and cooperative method. Paraffin paper method, box method and cooperative method, and so these are the methods, and so this is about the box method. So, we are kept these larvae in box, and so advantages, some disadvantages are there. So, next this is about floor method. So, it is easy to whenever we are culturing on fields, the proper temperature is especially in winter season, and shoot rearing method. So, this is about shoot floor method, and so rearing methods at late age worms, shelf rearing method, floor rearing method, and shoot rearing method. So, these are the methods. And, this is about spinning. Okay. So, this is about rearing of silkworm. Shall we stop here? This is about we have to remember it. They may ask in large questions. I think in Kakti University and Shatavahana University they may ask in 14 marks question for sericulture rearing method and spinning for 6 marks. Spinning for 6 marks, and story of cocoons also they may ask. Okay, these are the methods and where to follow. Shall we stop here?